What's up, you guys? It's the Wrestling Old Head here in the portal of pro wrestling, and today I'm going to break down the AEW Full Gear 2024 pay-per-view card. Full Gear is like, the definition is like full, quick, going through in succession, but it seems that AEW pay-per-views are anything but that, and that's not a knock on them. They give you your money's worth, but it's usually between 4.5, 5 hours long when you include the 0-hour pay-per-view pre-show. And with the rundown of the card that I see now, I mean, anything can change between now and Wednesday, going into even Saturday. Anything could happen. But from what I'm seeing, they're under 10 matches, including the pre-show match, which has the Costco guys against QT Marshall. So we might actually see a quicker, more succinct pay-per-view from AEW. I'm expecting a lot of surprises, you guys. I'm expecting a hopeful shift in momentum here because they have definitely had a little bit of a lull as of late, and that's to no shade thrown here. Things happen in professional wrestling when you're running a company. There are going to be injuries. There's going to be things that need to be changed and switched around. I don't know exactly what they're doing with this Jon Moxley Death Rider program and storyline that they're involved with. I don't know if Shane was originally supposed to be a part of it. Something has definitely happened, and they've had to do a massive switch. It also seems like there's a lot of storylines right now on their own island. I would have loved to see Hangman Page involved in a backstage segment with MVP and the Hurt Syndicate talking about Swerve Strickland. I would have loved to see Orange Cassidy talking backstage with Jay White and the Bang Bang Gang about the Death Riders. There's some stories there that they're not they're not threading together that I would love to see, and hopefully they can change that, and hopefully they get everybody on the same page and they get everything organized going into 2025, because I would like to see AEW thrive, because I believe when AEW thrives, all companies are forced to step their game up just by proxy and just by the competitive spirit, and they get on all cylinders and really put out a good product. So if you're a WWE fan, if you're a CMLL fan, if you're an NJPW fan, GCW fan, XPW fan, Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling fan, TNA fan, whatever fan you are of professional wrestling for whatever company, you would hope to see AEW put their best foot forward, because it would allow you to enjoy your brand of professional wrestling, whatever it may be, just that more. Enough of that. But I do want to say that sometimes when I watch AEW, I extrapolate the story or what I think it is, and I await confirmation. And most of the time, I never get it. I never get told that I'm completely off, or that was close, but here there's something more, or you're right on target. Good job. You hit the mark. It feels like a lot of the plot is done behind the scenes, and all of the revealing is done without explanation. And as a wrestling fan, I want to feel like I'm intelligent. I want to feel that, or that I'm seeing something very few can see in the way that the story is branching out. But that activates my victory reward system when I get the confirmation. And I just don't want to think I know. I want to know I know. And sometimes I see AEW stories, and it feels like they're telling us it's whatever you think it is. And that's not exciting to me. It's like you want us to do all the work, and by the end you leave it up to our imagination. Sometimes those movies are good, but a marathon of those movies is going to piss me off. I mean, straight up. So I hope I explained myself well with that. I think AEW, they can keep it simple, and they can tell us, be very elementary with it, and it's okay, and it's not going to turn them into WWE Light if they do that. It'll just allow those tuning in to feel like they're part of something and that it's okay to be involved. Not like you're watching something and the club masters are like, this is exclusive. You get a little peek into it, and if you don't get it, it's your loss, And I hope I explained myself with that, because that's where I feel like AEW is doing a lot of their storylines. Suddenly, a lot of stuff that we're watching, it seems like we're missing bits and pieces of it, and parts of it aren't being explained the way that they should. And it's fine for them to try to do nuanced storylines that are outside of what we are normally used to seeing. I have no problem with that, but be a little bit more, let us know what's going on, and remind us of what we're watching, because sometimes that's what we need as wrestling fans, and even casual fans alike, because if they're going to tune in and watch the program, you want them to be reminded of who's backstage, what storylines are going on, and that's what AEW can do a little bit better. Let's see if they're doing that with Full Gear. Let's see what storylines have been built up. Let's see where we're going, and let's see if we get that hard reset. I'm not going to do the 0 hour, but you guys know it's Costco AJ against QT Marshall. Let's get into the main show, though. In a 4-way match for the AEW Tag Team Championships, Private Party defend their newly won championships against the Outrunners, against the House of Black, which is Kings of the Black Throne, Malachi Black and Brody King, versus the Acclaimed. We have seen very little of the Acclaimed. The last I saw of them personally backstage, it seemed like there was a little bit of a chemistry issue, that there was a rift that was brewing between them, that they were not on the same page. Maybe one voted for Kamala Harris, the other voted for Donald Trump, and right now they're not seeing eye to eye for whatever reason. I don't know if they followed up on that since the last time I've seen them. I have not been watching Collision as much as I would like to, but it's just I haven't been able to get back into it, and them taping the shows doesn't help as much either. And I know a lot of people are like, it's taped, who cares, it's still wrestling, and I'm not going to dispute that. I'm just going to say I haven't been able to catch it. So with the Acclaimed, hopefully they're going to continue whatever program they're going to continue. Is Max Caster going to throw Anthony Bowens through a pane glass window? We're going to find out. I love Anthony Bowens. I think he is a natural top face guy. He gets sympathy like no other. He gets the crowd behind him. He's got a lot of energy. He works really, really good as a face in peril, and he can sell good, and he's got that fiery comeback that we all like to see in professional wrestling. It's kind of like a throwback, you know? So I can see Anthony Bowens on the top of the card as one of the top guys. Max Caster gives off the aura of douchebag. He gives off the aura of asshole very, very well, and I think he's a superstar in the making, and as a heel, he'll do wonders. I like where this might be going. I assume that this goes with Max Caster going with the Hurt Syndicate. I would like to see that, but who knows where AEW is going to put those two if they do inevitably split, and what's even going to happen with Billy Gunn. I feel like the whole Acclaimed, everybody loves the Acclaimed, Scissor Me Daddy, that has run its course. They had an opportunity to pull the trigger when they were in Tennessee or Georgia, and it was Powerhouse Hobbs and it was Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland with the tag team championships, and they went over on the Acclaimed on a night where I really felt like the Acclaimed should have won, and then they went and did a makeup. And at Arthur Ashe, about 3 weeks later, the Acclaimed actually won. I felt like they missed their boat there, and they really didn't have a plan on the other side of gifting them the championships because of the crowd response. And they kind of floundered a little bit, and they haven't been able to pick up the momentum after that. So where the Acclaimed are at now, I don't know if they're ready to be tag team champions right now. For the Outrunners are exactly where the Acclaimed were when they had that momentum and the crowd was behind them. I fully expect the crowd to get completely behind the Outrunners at Full Gear and them be the most over tag team in this match, to be honest with you. The question is, do they pull the trigger this soon after the Private Party have won the tag team championships and realize their boyhood dreams? So that is the question that everybody's asking. Also, the Kings of the Black Throne, Malachi Black and Brody King, it seems like they're getting a resurgence, if you will, and they're actually getting momentum and getting back up the card. But then there's also rumors of Malachi Black possibly leaving and going elsewhere. So do you really want to put them at a position to be over when they're actually going to be leaving? That's the question. So I wonder what's going to happen with that. Because of the way that all of these are kind of unknowns, I'm going to go with the Private Party because I think that they're the most suitable to win, given that they've won their tag team championships fairly recently. And I don't think that if they're trying to get Private Party over, they should do it by having them be transitional champions. So I'm going to go with Private Party. MJF is going to wrestle Roderick Strong. And forgive me, I don't think MJF has a championship that he was going to put on the line in this. I think this is purely based on revenge. Adam Cole and Roderick Strong were getting back on the same page, but also realizing that they have a similar enemy in MJF, and they were both going through gauntlets in order to see who was going to meet MJF at the pay-per-view, or if they were both going to meet MJF at the pay-per-view. And they really threw like kind of a monkey in the wrench of that for Adam Cole as he lost this past Wednesday on AEW Dynamite. And Roderick Strong ended up becoming the sole winner, giving him a shot against MJF. I don't know why they've done that. It's a very interesting way of doing that, considering they really kind of telegraphed a three-way dance there. So that's interesting. I wonder if Adam Cole was hurt or if they have something else planned for Adam Cole at the pay-per-view. Maybe he costs MJF the match and Roderick Strong gets the win. We have not seen MJF for some time, which is interesting. He's been out filming an Adam Sandler movie. I think it's like Happy Gilmore 2 or something like that. So while he was out filming, he filmed a couple of vignettes that played throughout the weeks while he was gone, where it's him at his home kind of, running things, if you will, and doing a lot of things that Tony Khan probably could have vetoed, but maybe Tony Khan was busy trying to handle the Death Rider situation, so he didn't have time to veto. MJF basically assigning a bunch of wrestlers to thwart the revenge that they had planned on him by putting them through the ringer like he normally does against his opponents and hoping that they don't succeed Mortal Kombat style so that they can meet the final boss, which is MJF. So I'm going to actually go in this match with Roderick Strong and MJF. I'm going to say that, I mean, although it's pretty obvious here that MJF's going to win, I'm going to say that they're going to try and give Roderick Strong the win by interference from Adam Cole. So I'm actually going to go with Adam Cole interfering, giving Roderick Strong the win. That's going to be my dark horse pick of the night. Bobby Lashley in his debut with AEW will debut at Full Gear. His first match in, he will meet Swerve Strickland. The way that they've been doing this program, I feel like it should have had more time. It should have been more prominently displayed on television. This should be their ace story right now. I don't know if they should have the AEW World Heavyweight Championship in this story. I think that it's nice that they're not involving a title because they don't need to involve a title between these guys for it to be a big deal. I think it's a big deal just as is. Swerve, super over. Doesn't need to get beat and made to look cheap in order to gain sympathy, babyface heat. He's never been that type of a guy. I don't think you need to draw sympathy for Swerve. I think Swerve is a beast. He's a dog. He's a savage. He's one of those guys that's going to do whatever it takes to win. I think you run the risk of losing that momentum, losing that aura by having him get beat and jumped all the time by the Hurt Syndicate. I think it's dog meets dog, and they need to show the fight in Swerve a little bit more with the Hurt Syndicate. I think by making him look weak by getting attacked all the time and not understanding that they're kind of doing what he was doing to other people, it's kind of throwing us off the game there. You know, like the reason why people fell in love with Swerve is because of his attitude, and now you're taking that attitude away and you're trying to turn him into Sting. And I don't know if that's going to work. So with this program, it's going to be interesting. They kind of booked themselves into a corner here because Swerve needs his momentum, but you don't want to risk Bobby Lashley losing his first match and killing all the momentum he's had since his debut. So I'm going to say Bobby Lashley gets the win here. I was wondering who they were going to have to come in and save the day for Swerve. I don't know who they have that could do that. I would have said the Acclaimed, but the Acclaimed are not on the same page currently, so I don't know what two guys would do. Like, who's the two guys that would come and help Swerve aside from Prince Nana? So you got MVP, Shelton Benjamin, Bobby Lashley. You got Swerve, Prince Nana. I don't know who else is out there that can even the odds. So we'll see what happens, but I'm going to go with Bobby Lashley to win in that match. Hangman Adam Page against Jay White. This is a return match from the last pay-per-view. It's been interesting here. I don't know what they're trying to do with Jay White. He's kind of like lost the character development that we were seeing him get when he was in the Bang Bang Gang. They've gone face, heel, face, heel, face, heel. They had some good stuff going with FTR for a while. That got dropped. They kind of lost their momentum after the whole MJF thing, and they're trying to still find their way. I love Juice Robinson. I like the Gun Boys. I like Jay White. They're still trying to find their identity and find out what's going on with them, and they're kind of lost in the shuffle here. I do like that they're trying to get Jay White back out there, but they're not doing a good job of telling us why we should care. I know some fans have still wondered if they should even cheer him. And that's something that's interesting there. So that'll tell you a lot about their development of Jay White since his return. We don't know what to think of him. And so if we don't know what to think of him, we don't know how to react to him. And so then he kind of flounders. And then we wonder about his momentum after that. So he did beat Hangman Adam Page, though, at the last pay-per-view. And judging by the math here, Hangman Adam Page is due for a return win. And he's going to get it. I think Hangman Adam Page is going to win this one. I don't know where they go from here. I don't know if Hangman Adam Page resumes his beef with Swerve or how they thread that together. I think that would be very interesting, and I think they need to think about doing something like that. But, yeah, I know that Hangman's going to win. I don't know where you go with these two performers after that. They're very talented, and I'd still like to see them somewhere at the tops of the cards. Will Ospreay against Kyle Fletcher. This would be a grudge match. I'm going to go with Will Ospreay. I really like the way that they're doing this. Kyle Fletcher is actually becoming like this punk kid. I like the way that they're doing that. They're giving him a story. They're developing him a little bit. They're giving Don Callis' group and Kyle Fletcher some identity. And I love that. More of that, please. Like we now they've defined the roles of the Don Callis family when before we were not sure what to think of them as well. It was like sometimes Don Callis was doing really shitty things, and then other times he was doing things that were like, oh, well, that's fair. That's actually pretty sweet. So we weren't sure what to think of Don Callis' group. Now we're starting to see them in their defined roles, and we get it. And I think that goes a long way to helping fans, casual fans, and wrestling historian fans, and extremists, and sickos alike to really, really get into the idea of the Don Callis family being a stable of guys that are going to do whatever it takes to win, and Will Ospreay being that opposition, being that hero, being Mr. PPV. Will Ospreay's going to win this. I think it's kind of obvious here, but I'm not going to say that Kyle Fletcher might not get a cheat win. I am just counting down the days to see when Powerhouse Hobbs or Mark Davis are going to turn, because I feel like they're telegraphing that pretty obviously there. So one of those guys are definitely going to turn. If I had to bet, I would probably say Mark Davis, because I think there's money in putting him with Kyle Fletcher again as a tag team and keeping them in the tag team division, which the tag team division could use another tag team at this point. For the TNT Championship, Jack Perry wrestles Daniel Garcia. Now, I don't really see a lot going with this match. I haven't seen a lot of this on television. I think they've probably been mostly on Collision and Rampage, not so much going on Dynamite. I don't have a problem with Daniel Garcia. I wish that they did the things that they would do with Jack Perry a little differently, but I'll take it for what it is. I don't know. I think Jack Perry should retain here, but he's kind of been floundering a little bit. They kind of just did this bust thing, and they're not really following up. I think he should. I think it would be interesting if. So I'll say this now, because I was going to say this at the main event, but I would say this now. Orange Cassidy should come out to Jerry Lynn's scapegoat, because he's like the new effing show, and Jerry Lynn kind of passed the torch to him. But Jack Perry has the nickname Scapegoat. So Fear Factory, Scapegoat. I mean, I don't know who deserves it. What's better? But it's still a badass theme. And since Tony Khan has the rights to November to Remember, I feel like go super ECW and have somebody come out to the Fear Factory Scapegoat, the remix, because that one's badass. I say Jack Perry retains here. Probably nefarious means, and then keeps the feud going. They'll probably do another match. For the TBS Championship, Mercedes Moné defends against Chris Statlander. They've been going back and forth here. I feel like Mercedes Moné is going to retain, and there's going to be some kind of a furthering with the dissension between her and Camille. Camille has been interesting because I thought they were going to really define her as a fierce, frightening, badass bodyguard. They've kind of gone the opposite way, and she's kind of been a klutz. So I'm interested to see where they're going to go with this, and if they even have a plan. The little I've seen of Camille in the ring, they haven't given her an opportunity to really shine. She's kind of looked like Jade Cargill when she first started in AEW, which means she needs a lot of work. And I mean that with all due respect. She's probably really talented in the ring, but what they've given her and the time they've given her, and maybe there hasn't been a whole lot of structure, I haven't seen a lot from her to give off that dominant vibe, which is probably why she's looking like a klutz. I don't think that's because they're directing her that way. I think that's just because of the way that they're not directing her, and I think that's the problem. Give her some cues. Mercedes Moné gets the win here. And for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship, Jon Moxley defends against Orange Cassidy. And I think my biggest problem with the big angle with the Death Riders is that Orange Cassidy is going to be the first one to fall when that should be the end game, with Orange Cassidy beating Jon Moxley, actually. I know the end game is probably going to be Darby Allin, and I think Orange Cassidy as champ is probably a little bit better than Darby at this point, because I like the story. So it's hard to believe in Orange Cassidy when he's going to be the first challenger and is 99% certain to lose. That just sucks. I don't have a problem with the overall arc of the Death Riders just fucking up the AEW roster because they're all so soft, and Mox makes an example out of many of them, and the roster ends up hardening up, and Orange Cassidy, a guy who looks like the most lackadaisical guy and the softest guy on the roster, is the one to dethrone Jon Moxley by doing it his way, the AEW way. That trajectory of the angle just feels good, and it feels like it works. And him being the first challenger kind of muddies that a little bit. I mean, Orange Cassidy realizing I can't be this slacker that doesn't care because I actually do fucking care. That's a good story arc. And then to watch him grow into a promo guy and to watch him have fire and actually care. I thought that was where they were going, but him being the first challenger against Jon Moxley leads me to believe that he's going to be filler, and they're going to end up having Darby Allin challenge Mox and dethrone Mox, which I'm fine with. But I just thought, for the sake of Orange Cassidy kind of being the Sting of AEW and kind of being the not so young guy that comes up and is in-house homegrown talent, I thought that they would have done a story like that, because that's kind of where what he needs at this point. He's been running circles and doing the same old things and losing momentum. That would have really beefed him up. And winning the world championship, I think, would have been huge for him, because he's not so young. I think he's in his 40s. And I think that would have been a huge thing. But they're not doing that. And I don't think they're going to do that. And I say Jon Moxley's going to win. And I think he's going to go for the plastic bag. And I think Darby Allin's going to come in and make the save. I am looking forward to the surprises that are potentially going to happen. One surprise is that Mariah May is being left off of this card. That Konosuke Takeshita is being left off this card. That Kazuchika Okada is being left off this card. Those are interesting, and they're glaring. Hook and Chris Jericho are being left off this card. So maybe Wednesday we get a couple of more matches added, and a couple of those guys show up on the pay-per-view card. Haven't seen a whole lot of Kazuchika Okada in a while, and that's interesting. And I would like to see Chris Jericho and Hook maybe try and Hook and Christian Cage, which are not on the card as well. Hook and Christian Cage maybe solve their beef and problems, and then maybe thread Chris Jericho into that somehow. Chris Jericho and Christian Cage doing some back and forth, the learning tree patriarchy type of thing would be interesting. And then add Hook with a returning Samoa Joe. I think you can get a lot of mileage out of that. I would be interested in that. You also got to pay attention, keep your eyes on Kenny Omega, and potentially Adam Copeland, and potentially the Young Bucks returning. Well, who knows what's going to happen with that? I mean, there's a lot there. Sting might even make his return as well. AEW definitely needs a jolt. They definitely need something that kickstarts them and gets them propelled into the new year 2025 so they can start it off on the right foot. Hopefully after this pay-per-view, we're doing a lot of talking about possibilities, and we're getting excited about potential matchups and the future of AEW, because I would really like to see it succeed. As it stands right now, this card doesn't look very strong on paper, but I'm sure, as they always do, they're going to put on a very good pay-per-view. It's the threading of the television shows into the pay-per-view that has always been the problem, but we shall see what happens. Stay tuned for more, you guys. It's been the Wrestling Old Head in the portal of pro wrestling. Stay tuned for more.